Good. All right, welcome to the BroDiallo broadcast on this, what is it, April 22nd. I hope everybody got their taxes paid. Got that extension. Somebody got to fund the genocidal empire. Anyway, let me get that music. No, I promised y'all a guest. I was supposed to have the Nation of Islam brother, but here's the thing. The brother Broom was not coming on to represent the nation. He was coming on to he is a member of the nation, but he was coming on to articulate his views personally. And he was coming on to defend against my criticisms of the nation, my criticisms against all of you hypocrites who claim to support the Nation of Islam and Malcolm X, and the fallacy that the Nation of Islam is responsible for Malcolm X's development and betterment, and that the old tire line that they built Malcolm and gave the world Malcolm, and we were going to discuss it. But he couldn't make it, and then he said, I'll come on next week, and he didn't make it. I didn't hear from him all week, because after that, I was just like, yeah, straight through. Okay, cool. Let me know. And I didn't hear from him. And I didn't reach out to him. You know, the ball's in his court. So anytime Brother Broom, like he said, me and him go way back. Been knowing dude since I was like 5-6 years old. We go way back. He's an OG from around my way, my projects. So, you know, I always got a special heart for all the hood cats that I came up around or came up with. So anytime he want to come through and speak on his behalf and rep for his nation, he's welcome. But I got something better. I got a sister on, been knowing sister for the longest time. She reached out to me and said she would come through and build with us. And every time she reaches out to me, generally I'm in trouble, is to criticize and to bring me down. So I was lucky that when I was like, sure, you always welcome on the BroDiallo broadcast. But I'm like, but what you want to talk about? Just to see what she was going to say. But it's up until this point, as far as it, I'm not the one at fault. I'm not the target this time. So welcome to the BroDiallo broadcast, Miss Kathy. I can't hear you. I don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
And you know you was wrong for what you said earlier.
That's all you ever do is just tear me down. Try to offer me correction.
Yes, that's much better.
So when you was like, I know I'm like, yeah, you can come through. And I'm like, what? I went
Excuse
to review
me.
my post. I went backtrack and see what I done said or done over the
Oh.
last couple of weeks. I'm like, I ain't done nothing to bring the wrath of Kathy on me. I've done nothing.
No, you've been talking really good stuff. I don't think people are really paying attention, but
Yeah,
that's the
some
way it is now.
people are. Some
Exactly.
people, not enough though.
Right. We need more.
I need to do Charlemagne numbers.
Well, you got to talk about celebrities and that type of stuff.
I do talk about celebrities, local celebrities, community celebrities.
Nah, I'm talking about the rappers and the reality television stars and that type of stuff.
I don't know reality TV. I don't know nothing. I go back as far as what's the last thing I saw? Oh, I watched Naked and Afraid, but I don't remember their names.
I don't even know.
That's the only reality show I watch.
Honestly, the only thing I watch on TV these days are cartoons, which is
Oh no, I watch Naked. I ain't nothing. You tell me you got a show where white folks volunteer to suffer. I'm there. Remember, Give Me a Break, Nell Carter.
oh
She
yeah,
said I watch soaps because I love to watch white folks suffer. So I don't miss
oh, she gave it to him too.
So when I was a kid, I'm like white folks suffering. I'm there. Naked and Afraid. You ever seen it?
I've heard of it. Yeah,
Leeches, leeches and lesions and oh my goodness. I'm like white folks got it too easy in life, man. For them to sign every now and then a black person will show up, but it's not like a black person. It's kind of like the cousin that comes to the family functions and goes to sit in your grandma's room. Don't really mingle too much.
Right.
But anyway, welcome to the BroDiallo broadcast. Today we're going to be talking about how great everything is, how everybody online seems to be prospering on the beaches, drinking out of coconuts, flying luxury private jets. It's so wonderful in this world for black people who are hustling and grinding. It don't match up with the statistics on paper, but I wish the internet was real because black folks doing great, right?
Oh, they doing fantastic. Oh my God, they traveling all over the world. They building monuments. They're starting scholarships. They doing all kinds of stuff online. But offline, I see different things in the city of Chicago.
Where you at in Chicago?
I'm currently in Hyde Park, but I still travel about.
Oh, I didn't know that. How long you been in Hyde Park?
I've been over here for 6 years.
So you one of them sneaky black people that be like, yeah, I live on the south side. You be like, yeah, I live on the south side. As far as I know, I ain't from Chicago, but I heard Hyde Park don't count.
Hyde Park counts. I love Hyde Park. It's a nice mix of people over here. It's a character over here.
I know. Every time I leave the house, I run from King Drive and head over to 53rd as fast as I can.
Oh, you in Hyde Park too? Wow.
I'm not in Hyde Park. I'm on this side of Drexel.
That's Hyde Park.
I'm on this side. I'm over here, King Drive, right there. King Drive don't run, huh?
I used to stay on 49th and Prairie back in the day.
Isn't that South Shore? What? Isn't that Wow, you okay? But Hyde Park, I guess it ain't tricking if you got it.
I really ain't got it,
but anyway, let's get down to the people's business. We're going to talk about struggle down because I often talk about this. I find myself weary because when I talk to other conscious revolutionary black people, and I myself, we have a grand scheme, a grand agenda of liberation. But I do find that sometimes when I start to talk about what I call more pedestrian issues, healthcare, housing, food security, things of that nature, even, affordable and quality education, a lot of times the grand scheme kind of says, well, that will come after the revolution. So the people who don't really have access to those things have to wait for this grand revolutionary struggle to bring that about. And when I start to acknowledge, well, there are ways for people to secure things, and there are ways through public policy, voting, unionization, and things, they tend to be like, oh no, that's liberalism, that's liberal, and they don't want no parts of that. So they were like, well, you're not a real revolutionary. Even I don't know if you watch Black Power Media, the channel formerly known as Black Power Media.
No, I don't watch it.
Oh, folks call me. I'm known as a liberal there. I go somewhere, and I'm a foaming at the mouth radical militant. Other places I go, I'm a tree hugging liberal. When I try to simply be rational,
right,
and evidence based, but people, a lot of even other rational evidence based people tend to only embrace the reason, the rationality, the conclusions, the analysis that suit them emotionally. Mm-hmm. So even though they're dealing with data and facts and science, they still respond to it according to how it makes them feel, in terms of whether they will embrace or reject it or acknowledge it or ignore it. But anyway, I don't want to do all the talking. How you been, sis?
I've been hanging in there. Got some issues. I got kicked off Medicaid,
Medicaid? That's a good thing. You don't want nothing from the government except everything, reparations.
I'm like, look, Black people deserve whatever they can get from this government. Under every dollar, I don't care. Food stamp, Section 8, cash, whatever. I don't know why a lot of us really don't get that point. Come on now. We have a tendency to shame people who are poor enough to receive those services, which never made sense to me because, we are working class poor people. I know you can fix it up and make it look fancy, but it is what it is. And I honestly thought the pandemic would have showed people the smoke and mirrors of the American economy, how easily you could snap your fingers and you lose everything. But it's like they've gotten even worse and more delusional than ever in the last 4 years. I thought it would have humbled the people, but it didn't.
Well, the stock market is at an all-time high.
Right.
And I like to quote Noam Chomsky on this, where I think this extends beyond the United States and goes across capitalism across the globe. Noam Chomsky said the health in a capitalist system, the health of the economy has no direct correlation to the health of the society. So you can have a booming, prosperous economy. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think I would go further to say, because he said there's no connection, meaning the economy could be up and society could be deteriorating, or which I would assume the inverse is true, that society could be functional and prosperous while the economy collapses. I haven't really seen that. But I mean, there is a lot of truth to what he says because there's more money circulating in the system than ever. There's more resources. Mm-hmm. And the technology and capacity to extract, refine, process, and distribute resources has never been more, efficient and primed. But yet, there's no real, again, correlation between these economic security and social cohesion that is that is driven or that is sustained by that economy.
Right. Yeah, because people, things are very expensive now. Food is just skyrocketed. Every time I go to the grocery store and I look at the prices, I'm like, well, you wasn't like this 3 years ago. The same food, the same texture, But, sometimes I think unless there's a true revolution, people still continue to buy food because they got to live. That's why they keep jacking up the prices because nobody's protesting about it.
Right. Well, yeah. And the thing is, Again, in modern economics, expense or cost has been totally separated
Mm-hmm.
in terms of when you look at a commodity or you look at a product or a service or good, the value of that has no correlation with the cost. I think we kind of confuse cost and value.
Right.
So, what does it cost to for Costa Rica or Haiti to send sugar or grain, or Mexico to manufacture and package iPads or Volkswagens and send them here? What does it cost to produce, ship, storage, promote a Jordan sneaker versus what the value is?
Right.
And I think we tend to think that cost and value are the same damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
If that's how much it costs, and that's the value of it. And I think that if we truly understood the true cost, because a lot of things we pay next to nothing for that are essentially free have a
Mm-hmm.
very high cost, and things that should cost a lot more money are very cheap and devalued, and things that have a very low cost are extremely overvalued or expensive.
Right.
So I think it's sad because people think of economics as a academic field when it's really a priesthood. It's a cult.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So I would definitely, so just speak in terms of what you see and what you've done. How do you see poor and working class people compensating or able to navigate this, just what do they call it now? Inflation, which is false. It's not inflation, but for lack of a better term.
Depending on family and friends, to get them
Yeah,
through
or
it, get
yourself,
them through it
or
for
when which you're
themselves.
here in the streets, in the slums of Hyde Park.
Well, I catch the bus. I don't drive because I got epilepsy, so I have to catch public transportation.
Uh,
And I hear people complaining. People are living. You got adult children still living at home because they simply can't afford to move out and get an apartment of their own. And I still look at apartments for rent, and I've seen apartments for rent in neighborhoods that are basically they shoot every day, but they want almost $2,000 a month in rent for a 3 bedroom apartment. And you paying that much money, you got to pay your utilities and all that stuff. You're gonna be paying out like $3,000 a month, and you're not gonna be safe in any neighborhoods. When I go
did you see
grocery shop, I hear people complaining about the cost of food, the cost of everything. When I do ride public transportation, I'm seeing so many young black men strung out on drugs. It's something I've never seen. I've worked predominantly downtown my whole adult life. And it's always been a homeless problem in the downtown loop area. But they were predominantly like older men, older white and black men. Now it's a whole bunch of young black men sleeping on trains. I would say between the ages of 18 and 25. And it's mind blowing. They on drugs too. You can tell. It's not alcohol. It's drugs. And it's sad to me because whenever I bring the subject up, people want to change the subject and start talking about the mess problem in the white community. And I'm like, I'm not thinking about white people. I'm talking about what's going on in the black community. What that got to do with us? Don't you see what I feel? Or am I just seeing things? I don't know. It's like everybody's turning a blind eye to certain things that's going on in the community.
Well, I mean, that's because you mentioned drugs as one form of escapism, but denial and the core word of ignorance is to ignore.
Right.
So if you have phenomenon in circumstances and conditions around you that you don't tune into, that you don't acknowledge, then you're ignoring them. And when you find yourself just looking away from issues, you become an ignorant person.
Yeah, I agree with that. But how can
But
you ignore something like that?
that's actually a good question. But I
How do you? front of your face. How can you not? How can you ignore it?
Well, I think people are able to look away by simply redefining it. So it goes from this person is not a victim, they're lazy,
Right.
they're undeserving, they're unworthy,
Right.
you know. So, and then when you can say, well, or they're not fully human, or you tell yourself they had every opportunity and they failed. So the society's not failing, they failed. So I think people just reimagine, rework, rewire their minds.
Right.
And because empathy, humans, we evolved with empathy because as we evolved as the primates, living in a group, because even Marx, when he said survival of the fittest, and he even defined fitness when he went into detail, it was never an individual fitness, where they were talking about fitness within a group. So you take a group of primates and say, well, which is the strongest primate of all those primates? That was not fitness. He defined fitness in relationship to other species. So why is this particular species able to thrive and have large numbers, whereas this species doesn't? And so fitness was really your capacity to coordinate and cooperate. But that aside, empathy, humans developed empathy as a means of learning and teaching. So empathy is being able to look at someone and put yourself in their position and sympathize with what they are going through, even if you're not the one going through it. And that was an evolutionary trait that allowed us to live in large familial groups, to coordinate, to share resources, to plan for the future, to avoid existing or potential threats. So humans are extremely empathetic creatures, and the elites hijacked our capacity for empathy. All our lives, we hear things like, well, now it's woke, but they always have this systematic attack on empathetic people. Back in the day, they used to say, you're a bleeding heart liberal. And then for black people, they were like, well, black people, we don't understand personal accountability and personal responsibility. And it goes all the time. And now they're like, oh, you're woke.
Right.
Or you're a social justice warrior. So someone saying, well, I give a damn about other people and the conditions and what other people are going through, then those people are the ones who are defined as defective.
Right.
Those are the people who are defined as insincere. They always are questioning, oh, the bleeding heart liberal or the pinko. Before bleeding heart liberal, they say you pinko.
I remember that time. From the 1950s, right?
Yeah. So if you look at throughout Western history or capitalist history, you'll find that the empathetic movements and the empathetic individuals in the society always had a label that was disparaging. And then you start, even the term liberal. Liberal was not a dirty word, and up until it became during the when Dukakis was the last politician to run for office saying, hey, I'm a liberal.
Right.
And loudly and unapologetically professed that I'm a liberal.
Right.
And he lost.
Yes, he did.
It was one of the most devastating total defeats of any presidential candidate.
Yes.
And Dukakis was the last, and liberal became a dirty word because liberalism came associated, not because as we see liberals now, I ain't getting, but liberals was welfare, Pell Grants, food stamps, and this is the birth of the welfare queen, set asides, affirmative action, and this was the same bootstrap era. And so liberalism became a dirty word, and now we who are supposed to be conscious, supposed to be empathetic, now we begin to we call each other liberals as dismissive. And just less than a decade ago, so people used to call me a social justice warrior, SJW. And now, as that pretty soon they're going to run woke off a cliff. It's all the same thing. Not only do these words become the word to disparage empathy, they also become a code word for black, a code word for woman or female, a code word. They come up with these code words when they don't want to say the bad part out loud. And then not only do they do that to disparage the empathetic, then they start to defend the predatory class, because we've all heard cancel culture. Oh, cancel culture. Now, all these billionaires, all these wealthy celebrities, all these men in very powerful positions, they're all being attacked by this looming cancel culture, and the cancel culture is coming after us. And the people and all the woke people are actually, the woke people are being attacked and trying to fight back against the oppressors. And now cancel culture is the real threat, not capitalism, predatory behavior. So they've been running this hustle since before I was born, as far back as my political memory goes. They've been running this, the same thing. And even go back, it used to be now woke. Oh, what are you, some kind of communist? What are you, some kind of anarchist? And we keep falling for the same hustles.
The same hustle all the time. It's so funny to see all these black conservatives. I'm like, but you're not rich. Why? I mean, I could understand somebody being rich in a conservative Republican, but if you don't have shit, excuse my language, you are a worker. You need to go sit down somewhere and rethink your whole existence on this planet, because your job can be taken away and you might have to go through your savings in order to survive. We need programs to keep people afloat. What's so wrong with that idea? What's so
Because
wrong with
welfare
that?
destroyed the black family.
I know. Even black people mad. I'm like, okay. You mad that people poor enough to receive government assistance. But you're not mad at the system that created all of it.
They are mad at the system for giving us food stamps, housing vouchers, WIC, and these public programs destroyed the black family, and they destroyed black people's will to work.
Oh, this what they think? Yeah, yeah.
I know you heard the welfare drove the black man out of the house.
Yeah, and I'm 53, and I grew up on 72nd University, and I never seen no caseworkers coming out to nobody's house checking underneath no women.
But that did actually happen to me.
Yeah, it did. It did. Well, look, it's an app called Clubhouse, which is very ignorant. But it was this young black man. So my Ronald Reagan took the black man out the black household. I'm like, what? Who told you that? My cat is meowing. You like that?
Wait. How? Well, Ronald Reagan, and Bill Clinton. I mean, every presidential administration. But the welfare destroyed the black family, and because welfare, as I was raised on welfare.
Me too.
Food stamps, Section 8, Medicaid, Pell Grant. Exactly. I really, except for Social Security disability, I can't think of a government program that I didn't at one point or another take advantage of.
Well, that's the only one. They won't give it to me. I'm disabled. They told me you make too much money.
You can't get SSI?
I'm not. In order to get SSI, you have to be making under $1,400 a month. If you go over that, you're automatically disqualified. They're going to turn you down.
I hate means testing in any program, but beyond that, they don't change that from city to city.
No,
because listen, you go to rural Kansas, you go to Shawnee, Michigan, you go to Wyandotte County, Kansas, and you're making $1,400 a month. That's living. But in Chicago, that ain't no money.
No, it's not.
In New York City, the Bay Area, that ain't no money.
That's nothing. That's kibble.
But it is money. And is that why they set the prices for poor whites I ain't never been there and will never go there, but I would imagine $1,400 a month. That's a mint in Appalachia.
I'm sure it is.
I've driven through Appalachia. It's actually beautiful.
Right, I'm sure it is.
But I never
Right.
stop. I fill up before I go to the mountains when I'm driving to New York. Before I
Mm-hmm.
hit the mountains, I fill up on gas and I get
Mm-hmm.
all the way through, and I don't stop till I hit Jersey.
Yeah, I got. When did I get turned off of? Because I didn't apply for SSI. I applied for total disability because I've
Oh,
been working since I was 17 years old.
that ain't
And
no
this is in
direct.
December of 2022 when I got a letter denying me disability benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And all I said was that you, baby, when I read the letter, I couldn't help but laugh. Because they would say you work, so therefore you're not, qualified to get disability. Even though I am disabled, I have epilepsy. I take anti-seizure medication, which has destroyed my short-term memory, so I'm not able to grasp things as quickly as I used to be able to do. And that irks me. So I reapplied again. I won't know anything for the next year. Last year, I would resign from two jobs due to my disability. One because of harassment. One because I couldn't fulfill the duties of the job because of my, short-term memory loss. I couldn't grasp the duties of the job, so it was either wait until I was fired for incompetence or resign for health reasons. So I made the decision to resign. So I applied for unemployment benefits, was able to get Medicaid until March last month. And I received a letter saying that I made over the amount of unearned income in order to qualify for Medicaid. I'm like, how am I making too much money in unemployment benefits to qualify to receive Medicaid?
And they call, but wait, they call unemployment unearned income.
Yes,
But didn't you pay unemployment insurance during your?
yes, yes.
So unemployment is not unearned income.
That's
It's
what it's considered, though.
huh?
That's what it's considered. It's considered
How?
I have no idea how they do their means testing, but and particularly since it's not forever, you only get it for 6 months. So, and
You
they
know
told me to come back
that's
and
the
apply.
Clinton administration.
Hmm?
That's the Clintons.
Yeah,
Clintons did that.
right. And Reagan did a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, but Reagan
He-
failed at a lot of stuff because remember, Reagan was very popular, but then
Mhm.
he had a liberal Democratic uh, Congress
Mhm.
that even though he did a lot of evil, he had to fight through opposition.
Yeah,
And
he
then
did.
Bill Clinton, remember, Reagan proposed NAFTA and GATT and the Omnibus Crime Bill. Those were Reagan policies, and NAFTA was passed by and signed by Bill Clinton.
Yes.
So, because you had a Democratic seawall against basically its repeal of the New Deal. They want to go
Right.
back to Gilded Age America, or what
Yes,
is
they
called the
do.
Prosperity Era, which is
Yeah.
roughly between 1920 and 1930 in the United States, was literally called the Prosperity Era.
Right.
And the United States now has surpassed that era in both stock market and wealth accumulation and in disillusionment and
Mhm.
entrenched poverty. So we're literally
Mhm.
in a gilded age
Yes, we
where
are.
greatness is gilded. So Reagan and Reaganomics, or as his running mate called it, voodoo economics, trickle down economics,
Mhm.
uh, he did face staunch opposition from the Democratic uh, legislature. And then Bill Clinton saw that Reagan had two things that the Democrats didn't have. One was the white racist vote or the white majority vote.
Right.
And number two was corporate sponsorship. And that's where the Democrats in the 80s were losing ground to the Republicans because they said they both get corporate funding, whereas the Democratic funding core was lawyers and unions.
Mhm.
public service union, private sector unions, and lawyers. And the reason why the lawyers funded the Democrats is because the Democrats were the party of regulation. So the lawyers said, listen, class action lawsuits and litigation is our bread and butter. And so the more regulations you have, the more litigation you have. And so Bill Clinton figured, we don't want to sacrifice the black vote to directly or openly appeal to the white majority, the white racist. So he still went on and played the saxophone and said, I feel your pain. And he used to go eat McDonald's. And your girl, Toni Morrison, said that Bill Clinton was the first black president because he
was my girl.
household and he ate primarily fast food. And he grew up barefoot and poor like the rest of us. So Bill Clinton could feel, remember, he said, I feel your pain. That was his campaign slogan. I feel your pain.
Yeah, we felt it already.
And he said, after the Democratic Leadership Committee, for the first time under the Clinton administration, the Democratic Party not only eventually equaled the Republican Party in corporate elite funding, they surpassed. So they said, we can do the crime bill, we can do all this Republican and legislature to court more corporate sponsorship. And at the same time, they stabbed the unions and the private sector attorneys in the back. So deregulation of multinational corporations, of the elites, deregulation of the stock market, but we're going to regulate individuals. So we're going to impose more stricter crimes and penalties on individual citizens, while these persons, corporate persons who are supposed to also be bound by the law, they can't pollute, they can't steal wages, they can't violate regulations, they must pay taxes. So this is all what's happened. And throughout it, many of our conscious leaders just totally didn't understand this move. They were like, oh, voting don't mean nothing. The government's all the same. Ain't no difference between Democrats and Republicans. They just had these reactionary, anti-intellectual conclusions about things are getting bad for black people. Government good, government bad, government. And they just really had no analysis, where there were many choke points and many internal divisions amongst white folks that we could have exploited, that we let go past because of this reactionary, strategic, non-tactical approach we had to politics, electoral politics, but also street level and community level politics. I don't know.
Yeah. It's wild times we living in. You know, I'm sitting up here, I have no help.
In times. Farrakhan said, did you hear Farrakhan's latest announcement?
No, I heard what he said.
Live in his neighborhood.
Yeah, I do. And I like ride past
the mansions.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's tacky as hell to me. And why don't Farrakhan ever get that fountain working?
It hasn't worked the entire time.
All that bean pot money, he can't get that fountain to work. Why you got a big ass fountain in your front yard and it don't work?
I'm not saying a drop of water out of it.
It's one of them beautiful, like cascading.
Yes, it is. It looks so pretty.
So you and Farrakhan over there living good while the rest of us suffer.
I'm suffering too, though.
Farrakhan said it's in days, times of the apocalypse, and that every black person should save up to 3 months worth of food.
Well, I don't know if these are end days, but I do think we need to save up, get you a deep freezer and fill it up if you got one.
Freeze? I mean, if the food net, why would the electricity stay going? I was in New York for that big blackout.
Okay.
And you know what they were doing all over New York?
What?
When they had that major blackout in early 2000. Huh?
That was like 2003, 2004.
Yeah, it was. I was in New York.
Right.
With my girlfriend, we was living in sin. So if it was the end times, because we hadn't gotten married yet, we was shacked up. I don't think her mother knew yet. But anyway, everybody had brought out grills all up and down the street. because everybody had deep freezers, and people were
Right.
just literally had big coolers full of meat, just cooking up the meat, giving it to anybody.
Oh,
I had a small bookstore cafe at the
that's.
time, and I was kind of glad it happened because I was able to get some break on the rent and negotiate some stuff with the landlord because I wasn't
Right.
making money selling black folks books. But
That's
that
my dream, though. I would
uh,
love to open up a bookstore cafe.
let's
I would
do
love.
it. Vegan,
Hmm?
vegan.
We can do vegan. I'm
It's
not a
got to
vegan,
be.
but we can do it. I'm not a vegan, but we can do that, though. That's
All
one
right.
of my dreams.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do this.
But not in Hyde Park. You got to open it in the hood. You got to open it
We
in the.
can do it in Burnsville.
Okay,
That's perfect.
work on that.
Actually,
I'm down with that.
the rent over here would be ridiculous.
Because you make money. All them University of Chicago students.
uh, yeah, we will make some money though, because they some hungry little thirsty things.
Well, but all I'm saying is a deep freeze. You need jerky. You need dried shit like
Yeah, you need smoked
shelf
food. Yeah,
stable. Unless you build one of those outdoor beans or potato cellars, but a
right,
freezer is good to like maybe save money buying in bulk. But a freezer
right.
is not good in preparation for a catastrophe.
Now you're
'Cause the
right, because
lights
they're
are
gonna.
off, and like I said, uh, I was on Sterling Avenue, and all up and down in every neighborhood, grills were going off because people are like, this meat is going to go bad, and everybody that had a grill, because you remember the stoves were off, everything was off. Everybody
Everything was
that had a
off.
grill, and people were bringing their meat to other folks who had a grill to be like, just cook it up, and it was meat for like 2 days. Everybody was just chowing down on
Right.
people's frozen provisions. So a deep freezer. Did Farrakhan say buy some stuff to put in the freezer?
Damn. See, I don't pay attention to fair. He said it's the end of days is coming, and we need to save up for 3 months worth of food.
3 months. And then what happens after 3 months? How many times has Farrakhan mobilized y'all for this? How many
Who
times?
y'all?
Huh? You come on. Y'all Chicago. Y'all Chicago, listen. I'll never understand. I could live in this city another 50 years. I never understand Chicago.
You never will.
Y'all very peculiar in this town. The heroes y'all erect, y'all Jesse Jackson and Mayor. What's the name of that mayor? Everywhere I go, I see some monument to.
No, you can't be talking about Harold Washington.
Yeah, I'm talking about Harold.
Don't talk about Harold now.
Exactly. And
You
Barack.
can talk about everybody else, but you can't talk about Harold.
Barack Obama.
Well, no, you can talk about.
I mean, y'all ain't put out a halfway decent black man since Chairman Fred Hampton.
That baby got killed at 21 years old.
Y'all, it ain't been a halfway decent black leader in this town before or after. I don't understand.
Now what's wrong with Harold?
Harold, you don't. What was Harold's campaign slogan?
Wasn't it for the people? Am I correct?
Or did I white folks?
I forgot. I was about 13 years old.
Harold said he was going to be more than fair.
Right.
He said, my administration is going to be more than fair.
Mm-hmm.
United States. It is true about it. But Chicago is a city made up of ethnic enclaves.
Yes.
You got the Polish, you got the Irish,
mm-hmm.
you got the Jewish,
mm-hmm.
you got the Asians, mainly mm-hmm. Chinese, but the Koreans and Vietnamese all posse up with them.
Right.
Got the West Side, Latino, Hispanic.
Right.
They beat the hell out of each other, but soon as somebody that ain't with them come, they quick to take a moment out of beating each other up to beat your ass.
Exactly.
This is a city made up of ethnic enclaves. And the power in this city is closely guarded factions.
Very.
That generally get some type of economic and political niche of power, and they hold to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're in power, they do for their constituents and their niche above all and first. So when Harold Washington was elected, all those other groups said, I guess it's the black folks' turn. The Irish had it.
Mm-hmm.
The Polish had it. The Jewish people had it. Lost it, got it back. Right? But when Harold Washington got into office and black folks said it's our turn, did he conduct himself according to the legacy and the conditions of the ethnic enclave?
Well, I'm gonna say this: he spent a lot of the, he died in office with the second term, but he spent that first term fighting. They stopped. It was a mess in Chicago. They used to call Chicago Beirut on the lake, because you had those like Eddie Vladoliak and what's the other one that
Who was he fighting?
no white alderman. They hated his guts.
Did he hate them back?
Hmm?
Did he hate them back?
That I don't know if he hated them back, but they didn't like him.
He did not. What tactics and strategies did he use? His policy was, I'm going to break this cycle.
Right.
I'm going to break the cycle, even though we didn't start the cycle. We never controlled the cycle, and we've never been at the front of or the primary benefactors of the cycle.
Right.
When we finally get the reins, he's like, I'm going to put a stop to this. I'm going to put a stop to these enclaves, and I'm going to bring us all together.
Kumbaya.
And by doing that, he kept all of these political enemies. He did not clean house. He did not bring the resources. He did not distribute the power. He did not punish his enemies. His idea was, I'm going to be more than fair. Just like Dr. King, he believed he could overcome them with his capacity to love them. You could defeat your enemies by demonstrating to them the depth of your humanity. And that's some bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. They would never say your
all
humanity.
Harold did. And black folks, just like with Obama, we were so enamored to see a black face in a high place that we didn't look beyond that. We followed the yellow brick road to a black mayor, black president, and we saw the light show and the big old dance, the whiz. We saw the dancing, we heard it, and we never looked behind the goddamn curtain.
Right. Well, I kind of knew what Obama was about. Shortly after he started.
But you don't know what Harold? Because Harold
when he got elected, that was in April of 1983. I was 12.
I knew about Harold. I was younger than that.
I wasn't paying attention, but I knew.
8 years old. I'm sitting in Kansas City, Missouri, and I heard about Harold Washington. And remember old David Dinkins?
Oh, for New York, right?
Yes, all these black mayors and black governors all over this country. It was an avalanche.
It was a bunch of black people that got elected.
And the only reason they got there was through the blood and struggle of people on the street, and they didn't make good on their political, cultural, ideological, racial debt that they owe to the community. And listen, I let y'all have Harold Washington. I ain't got nothing to say. I'll let y'all have him. But I don't understand the icons of Black Chicago.
Yeah.
Let me not diss them all. I was in Hyde Park, belonging. I call that when I go to the nice neighborhoods. I try to conduct myself so people don't know I didn't come over from the other side of the tracks. But
your neighborhood is going such a great transformation.
Huh?
I said your neighborhood is going underneath a great transformation.
Oh yeah, it's being gentrified. Y'all coming over here? I'll probably walk out the front door and see you over here in a minute. But no, when I first got to Chicago, what's that strip mall that used to have Leona's and the black-owned liquor store?
Yeah, that's on 53rd and Woodline.
What's the name of that strip? It's got like the Chase Bank. It's got
Kimbark, something.
That grocery store that's there, right?
Half-Hour Produce. They closed right now because there was a fire in there.
When they closed?
They not closed for good. It's going under repair. This like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, they got this special vegan chocolate.
They got great stuff in there.
They got this vegan chocolate bar in there. And
good stuff in there. Reasonably priced.
Like one every 2 or 3 months because that one chocolate bar is like $5.
Right. I think they're pretty reasonably priced.
Huh?
I thought they were gonna be higher when I first moved over here. I'm like, God, the vegetables and
The
fruits are
produce ain't bad.
no,
But
not at
anyway,
all.
can I tell my story?
Yes, tell your story.
I'm walking in that store, and guess who I see coming in through? Because you know the automatic doors. Guess who I saw
Right.
coming out?
Ooh.
Lerone Bennett, the historian.
Oh yeah.
He wrote Before the Mayflower. And it was
Mhm.
like, I don't know. I had been in Chicago less than a year, and I'm like, man, living in Chicago is gonna be great. How you just walk down the street and see icons, you know?
Right.
So that was a trick. But yeah, I saw LeBron Brennan. So he lived in Hyde Park. I don't know where he lived, but that's he said, yeah, I live around here. I'm like, oh, you're LeBron Bennett. That's what I do when I see famous people. I just tell them who they are in case they
Right.
don't know. I just saw Mr. T about 2 weeks ago
Really? I
at
forget
Whole
he is
Foods.
from Chicago.
Huh?
He's from Chicago too. You
Yeah,
know that.
he's still here.
I didn't know he was still here.
I saw Mr. T at Whole Foods on Roosevelt, and
Okay.
I didn't speak to him because I'm still mad at him. Because remember, he cut down that old growth forest. He bought some land, and it was them 800-year-old trees.
Oh.
And the environmentalists say, we know it's your land, but would you consider not cutting down the trees? And he said, it's
Yeah,
like
I
our
forgot
land.
about that. He took those trees. He should have left those
I
trees
didn't
alone.
say nothing. I didn't want to get swung on. So I didn't say nothing. I kept my distance. So I didn't go speak. My wife went up and took a picture and hugged him and all that. But you know, I'm a principled black man. I'm not boycotting Mr. T, but I'm not happy that he cut them trees. I'm still mad.
Right.
What
800
was that,
years
like
old.
93, 94? I'm still pissed about that.
Right. I didn't know he was still in the Chicagoland area. I had no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. I was gonna go chain myself to one of them trees, but I had finals that week.
That's when you was young and idealistic.
Now I'm old and idealistic. It's pitiful. You're supposed to let this shit go. Anyway, you're doing too much grinning. It's supposed to be a sad and downtrodden topic.
Yeah.
So,
We
in
got to
turn,
laugh to keep from crying.
I guess,
Seriously.
yeah. So do you see? You said you hear people complaining, like in Chicago.
Mhm.
You said you hear it because I hear people complaining too, and folks is
Mhm.
mad that Mayor Brandon Johnson, who I voted for,
Me too.
is giving what was it, $50 million.
Oh. Oh yeah, they mad about that. Oh my goodness.
That he's giving $50 million to Venezuelans,
Mhm.
and people contacting me, and even people that are supposed to be revolutionary and conscious. Because you remember Dr. Umar, I'm sure you had paid your $35, got your $35
I
text.
didn't give him a slug. I knew he was
Dr.
shyster.
Umar. And Dr. Umar is going around the country saying that the Democrats are bringing the immigrants here to replace black people.
That's what my best friend been saying. I'm like, girl, stop.
Company you keep. Well, you live over there with the black bourgeoisie.
No, she stays in Roseland. Cause she stays in Roseland. She been turned into a paranoid black person.
That's another thing. But you know, as inflation, economic instability,
Mhm.
social unraveling happens, people become more paranoid and hostile,
Yes. Yes.
jingoistic. So, um, you better get a hold of your friend. But as I
Yeah, I'm
was saying,
trying to.
Chicago's budget is $17 billion, give and take.
Right.
$17 billion annual budget. The biggest public expenditure is the Chicago Police Department.
Right.
$50 million is literally less than 1% of the budget.
Right.
It's less than a half of 1%. So I went to the calculator, an online calculator, and found that this is 0.42% of the budget goes to aid to Venezuelans. And
Mhm.
then I looked at the itemized distribution, or proposed, because they're opposing it, of that
Right.
budget.
Right.
And they're not running up to Venezuelans, giving them stacks of dollars.
No, they're not.
They're paying local professionals,
Mhm.
local service providers,
Mhm.
translators, food services, health
Mhm.
care, social work, and for housing. So actually, this proposed $50 million would be immediately redistributed amongst the working class and Chicago and service
Right.
providers and professionals and
Right.
organizations. So it would actually be a boost to the overall services of the city. So we're in this position, double whammy, where people are suffering
Mm-hmm.
and people lack the understanding or comprehension of the nature of their suffering. And so they're lashing out. They're lashing out at anything that essentially the mainstream media or the demagogues point them to. So you got a lot of justified anxiety and rage.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who is the true source of that insecurity and instability tells you Venezuelans, tells you, or any immigrant will do, any immigrant of the week, tells you transgenders.
Right.
They'll tell you, oh, it's the Russians. Or depending on your political point of view, it's the Russians or it's the Ukrainians, both of them. Because I hear black folks complaining about the money going to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think,
Yeah, I've heard people say that, like when Trump was president, he wasn't giving money to Russia. It's the same thing, different.
they say, what? Who are you hanging
I've
around?
heard people complaining about how Biden is giving all this money to the Ukraine, not remembering when Trump was president, he was giving money to Russia, if I'm not mistaken. So to me, it's like it's the same thing, different quote unquote friends that they give the money to.
Can I tell you something? None of
Mm-hmm.
that money leaves the United States. At least not that way. The United States is a war economy.
Yes.
So the United States has an ongoing military industrial complex. The
Mm-hmm.
military industrial complex means that the public sector, the government, funds private industry to unceasingly produce weapons of mass destruction,
Mm-hmm.
whether in wartime or in peacetime. So
Exactly.
all over this country and all over the world, there are warehouses and stores of advanced weapons. If you go to Google Images and you look at military warehouse or military graveyard, there are literally trillions of dollars of weapons that get distributed. So when the United States gives foreign aid, what they do is go to private US corporations, give
Mm-hmm.
them money to ship their surplus of weapons or stockpiles overseas. So they pay them, one, to distribute the stockpiled weapons. Number two, they pay them to replenish the stockpiles. While everybody's sitting here mad at Ukraine, thinking Ukraine is just getting money when they're just getting weapons. But the trick is, if they're the day before the Ukraine war, the money was still being dispersed. So the weapon systems, the weapons are there regardless. The United States is going, the military budget goes up and up and up in wartime or in peacetime. And when there is a conflict, then they're able to go and clear the books. So it's legalized embezzlement.
Mm-hmm.
So they give up all this money, trillions of dollars. And then when there's a conflict, when they can get rid of the surplus and get rid of the stockpiles, they then turn around and say, well, we're giving this money. The money was already allocated. And black folks are really like, they're giving money to Venezuelans. They need to stop talking about money because the money stays exactly where it is. That money that went to Ukraine is fueling the Wall Street bubble right now. That money is on Wall Street. That money is in the hands of venture capitalists, of hedge funds. It's not in the hands of Ukrainian soldiers. Those weapons that they're using, when the United States illegally invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, the soldiers were coming back to the United States and says they got U.S. weapons.
I remember that.
Remember, they show us videos of the Taliban,
I
and the
remember.
are literally in the desert riding around in brand new, pristine Toyota trucks.
Yeah, I remember all of that.
I got a 10-year-old Ford sitting in my front yard. And I ain't done I don't throw rocks. I ain't done nothing to nobody. And how somebody who's supposed to be evil incarnate, international terrorist, got
Just
these,
riding slick.
and they were too. So
Riding slick.
it pains me when I see black people complaining about they giving money to Iraq. They giving money to Venezuela. They giving money. They giving money. I have to quote Bobby E. Wright every show. He said, black people been in this country the longest and we understand it the least.
I agree.
So in terms of your own plight,
Mm-hmm.
not trying to get in your business. So what's the next step? Let's say you're struggling with financing.
All right. Well, I got a job that I'm going to start in June.
Does it give
So
health
I
insurance? Does it come with health insurance?
Yes, it does. I just got to get through. It's the meanwhile I'm going through. I know eventually everything is going to be okay, but I'm just pissed that I live in this country. My great grandfather was a runaway slave from the Barrel Plantation in Louisiana. He ran away and joined the Union side of the war, fought for his freedom. Without him, I wouldn't be here. And you telling me I can't even get no fucking health care? My ancestors built this motherfucking country. And I can't get health care because I make too much money.
No, you can't get health care because it's more profitable. The United States, and we've had too many heads of state tell us the business of America is business.
Mm-hmm.
So when the United States is making decisions on policies, the first thing it says is what's profitable.
Right.
So that's what, or if I had to define the history of the United States in one sentence, I would say it is one of ongoing one-sided class war.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the fact that we pretend as though, I remember when George Bush Jr. was in office, everybody's like, he's such an idiot because he'd get up on there and mispronounce words and misspeaks. And I remember one quote, he was saying, you fool me once, shame on you. If you fool me twice, you can't fool me again. Like you try to use just standard quotes a middle schooler would know. People said he was very stupid. And Michael Parenti was always pointing out at how do we think these wealthy people are so stupid, so backwards, so incompetent, so out of touch, but yet they win every single time. Always win because they're not stupid, they're not incompetent. The conditions that we live in are not a result of incompetence. They're the result of deliberate actions, long-term agendas.
Yeah.
And we are up against just the political scheme, neoliberalism, the project for the new American century, this current political trajectory that we're on is almost 100 years old. The Koch brothers, we all came to know, but the Koch brother, one of them died. They picked up the baton from their father. This goes all the way back to Prescott Bush. So they have been carrying out this agenda to dismantle the social welfare state that it took over a century of bloodshed, of anarchist, socialist, communist, working class, union militant struggle. The reason we have what little bit we have, from public schools to if you look at Upton Sinclair, to a regulated food market, a lot of things that people take for granted because it's been around so long. This is the result of over almost a century of elite, conservative, right-wing, white nationalist, evangelical action. The reverse of Roe v. Wade. And we who are working class, we who are the masses, we African people, we want this shit fixed in one election cycle. And if One administration don't fix it, I vote for the other administration, or I don't vote at all because we think that's how it comes. Are we going to do a third party? And so we, as the working class people, not only do we not think in the long term, we are engaged in a multi-generational struggle, a multi-generational class conflict, and a multi-generational racial conflict that we can only interpret or understand within election cycles, or what I call atrocity hopping, from one racist atrocity to the next. So we really need, that's why I push so hard for radicalism and revolution, and understanding that revolution is an intellectual endeavor. Because again, we understand that we're suffering. Some of us even comprehend certain aspects of our suffering. But for the vast majority of us, if you talk to the average person about the things that they go through and the things they struggle through, they don't really comprehend. It's like medicine. You can know you're sick. You can feel the symptoms. Until you have a proper and complete diagnosis, you can never implement a cure. So now we have these problems that are undiagnosed, or even more dangerous than an undiagnosed ailment is a misdiagnosis. Is even more dangerous. And so that's where we are. That's even why I started, doing YouTube and the radio show I was doing, is because I think that our grasp of this, and it's been devalued because the African intellect has been devalued since the day we got here. But the intellectual component of the struggle has been neglected and devalued. So anyway, would you like to open up for questions, comments, criticisms?
What do you think about this upcoming presidential election? It's fascinating to me that Trump is considered a front runner. He got all the court cases. He is so ignorant. And there are people who actually like him, and not just white folks. For black people, I've heard black people say money was flowing through the hood when he was president. I'm like, that was because of the pandemic. We could not work. They had to give us something.
What they also don't understand, which is even dumber, Trump was the chief executive.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 5th grade civics, we learned that the chief executive has no control over the budget.
Exactly.
He has no power for allotment. And if you remember, it was the Congress. And remember, Trump lost majority control over the Congress before his first term was up.
Mm-hmm.
So the following midterms, remember the blue wave everybody was talking about?
Right.
And it wasn't as strong as but Trump. So it was a Democratic Congress that had the money flowing.
Exactly.
The president does not control the budget.
No, he does not.
And so even if you think that, even if you find the conditions under Trump favorable, if you think it is a result of those checks that were coming through and the moratorium on evictions and mortgages, things of that nature, that is a byproduct of the legislature.
Exactly.
And dominated the legislature at that time. But the anti-intellectualism and dumbing people down, so that they would be easier to manipulate and govern. So, Trump is an idiot.
Yes, he is.
And
oh my God.
By nature of being an absolute idiot, he makes stupid people feel very, not just comfortable, but confident. Because I'm an idiot and I think stupid shit. And so if a person in a position of power and visibility says the same stupid shit that I think in my own stupid brain, then that means I have a presidential level intellect.
Right.
I have a world leader level intellect.
Right.
And thus is the nature of his appeal. But there are a lot of aspects of Donald Trump that are very attractive to Black people in the Black community. Sexism and misogyny.
Yes.
Grab them by the pussy.
Right.
Not only do I have a prostitute, I marry a prostitute who's half my age, trophy wife. And then after I knock her up, I'm laid up in a hotel room with a porn star. There are a lot of men who see that the ability to use people in that nature, to be able to commodify and objectify people and have them serve at your whim is an aspiration for a lot of people. And a lot of people vicariously live that.
And it's so weird that people seem to have forgotten that he used to talk about his oldest daughter very inappropriately.
He just said if it wasn't his daughter, he'd blow her back out.
Right. And people think that's cool.
But he said if she wasn't his daughter, he'd have her spread out.
Oh my God. He is really a thoroughly disgusting individual.
If it wasn't his daughter.
Yeah, he a fucking creep. Nasty.
But that's the caveat. He said that she's my daughter, so we can infer that
if she wasn't his daughter, it'd be on and popping.
Right. He said if. So he qualified that. So
right, and people just ignore that whole conversation.
People don't ignore it. People, there are a lot of components. Listen, nobody is exempt from American capitalist indoctrination. Not only that, Christianity is the dominant religion in this society.
Right.
Christianity teaches that humans are inherently sinful, unclean, unworthy, headed towards damnation. Right?
Right.
So Trump appeals to the Christian right and to the reactionary and to so many people that he appeals to, because I mean, if America, the United States, was distilled down to one human being, Trump is the living embodiment of what the United States. He's got wealth he didn't earn. He mismanages the wealth and goes bankrupt, and then finds out how to steal the more wealth that he's unworthy of. He's violent and belligerent, ignorant of history, psychology, sociology. He's anti-intellectual. He's a con man. He's an open, blatant criminal. Name one component of the United States of America that Trump does not reflect and embody in his life and his history. Racist as fuck, predatory, economically predatory, sexually predatory. You know, he believes in strict hierarchies and dictatorships. And all of his foreign allies, he looks for strength and ruthlessness are his two highest values. And he demands unquestioning loyalty to everybody, from everybody around him, but offers no loyalty in return.
Don't offer none, you get nothing.
This motherfucker is the most American motherfucker. So how could he not win?
You're right. He's the epitome of America.
Right.
Everything he
But the main thing he does, if you sat at home amongst yourself, Kathy, thinking stupid thoughts, imagine if you turned on the TV and you saw a candidate who was liberationist. You saw a candidate on your TV that was articulating the thoughts that were in your head. Socialized medicine for all, reparations for African people. You know, we're going to clean the prisons of nonviolent offenders, education up through PhD, MD for free. We're going to do a debt jubilee, and we're going to erase all working class and struggling people's debt.
Ooh, my God, utopia.
And you wouldn't put on their hat and go to a rally and
yeah, I would.
Understand that the majority of white America and a painfully significant number of Black America sits around thinking, grab them by the pussy, shithole countries. Yeah, you know, my daughter. So, I mean, Farrakhan said the reason that fathers mess with their daughters is because they remind them of their wives when they were in their prime.
He said that?
Yes. He said,
I didn't know that.
The reason why so many fathers mess with their daughters is because the mothers are rude, they gain weight, they They don't venerate and honor the father. But when you look at your daughter, you see the woman that you were with 20 years ago. So in order to stop men from preying upon their daughters, mothers should be more submissive, should put on more makeup and be more subservient, and look at their husbands with adoration and awe the same way a child would.
That is really disgusting.
That is Trump as fuck. So there are a lot of Trumpist characteristics. There are a lot of Trumpist values. There are a lot of Trumpist ambition. We don't love them hoes. Yeah, I thought it was ironic that Snoop Doggy Dogg did that video where he murdered Trump in that rap video.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, what in Snoop Dogg's record career doesn't align with Trump's values?
Right. They were friends at one time until he ran for president. All these rappers love Trump.
Not all these rappers. Not all these rappers.
Not all of them.
Boots Riley from The Coup, from his very first album, Break Yourself, Trump, is Collection Day. The rappers I grew up listening to hated Trump's guts.
Right.
But there's not an accident that so many rappers, that he was one of the most cited individuals, one of the most referenced individuals in hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Money, women, I guess cars, but I don't really know Trump ever being associated.
Well, power, money, women, and power.
Trump's existence was inevitable. Trump is not the problem. He is a symptom.
Yeah, you're right.
Trump is a malignant tumor, but that malignant tumor was provoked or caused by the toxic waste of capitalism and white hegemony.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really an issue is that in the wings is an articulate, intelligent, strategic Trump. Because Trump is a baffling idiot. Trump's stupidity is about the only thing holding him back. He's dumb as fuck. But you got a lot of these really smart people that pretend to be stupid, that pretend to be common folk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Barack Obama having a beer summit. You know, but anyway, I was genuinely surprised. I can't say I was surprised because I was right. Trump didn't win that election. Hillary beat him by more than 3 million votes.
Yes.
So Trump took office. Trump didn't win the election. Trump took office. So, and it's a difference. You know, you can win majority or you can get the Democratic majority and not take office in the United States. Because guess who else did it? George Bush.
Oh, I remember that. I will remember that.
In fact, the last Republican to take office without, in some way, illegally or corrupt way, stealing the election, the last Republican to take office was, I think, what's his name? Eisenhower. I think he was the last Republican person, because every single Republican following Eisenhower that took office remember the Iranian shit that Reagan did with the Iranians. Most other Republicans literally either commit election fraud or treason to take office.
Yeah.
But people don't like to hear that because it's really cool to be anti-Democrat. I mean, they think
that's the new trend.
Yeah.
You're on the Democratic plantation.
You know, I don't like that type of talk.
I don't either.
Because the plantation ain't nothing to play with. Because remember that one congresswoman was like, the mask is the star.
Right.
She was like, don't fucking play with our atrocities.
Right.
Don't fucking play with our atrocities. You can complain about it all you want, but it's not a gold star.
No,
we let people throw plantation and slavery around like it wasn't nothing but something to do.
Yeah. They do it all the time. They disrespect their ancestors.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
I agree.
It's a shame.
So anyway, did you want to open up for questions, comments, and criticisms? It's about that time. We got about a half an hour left of the show.
Okay. Well, what's some criticisms too?
Huh?
You talking open it up for people to say something?
Yeah, the audience.
Oh yeah, they can say whatever they want to say.
All right. This is a BroDiallo show. We got Sister Kathy hanging out with us this evening. Um, you can click the link in the comments to come on live, or if you want to type a question in, a question, comment, or criticism, we take all. It's here. Uh, Gwen believes you can win disrespecting your ancestors, so she wants everyone to
Wow.
continue disrespecting your ancestors. I'm sure that was a typo, but it's on record now.
I
And
wonder
when
how
she
how
corrects it, I'm not going to put that up.
how is that possible? How can you win by disrespecting your
I,
ancestors?
I think it was a typo, but like I said, I'm gonna pretend like that's what. But she believes we can win disrespecting our ancestors. Y'all don't
Okay.
want to know what I think about ancestors.
Well,
Key wants to know what's up with Black Power Media. Black Power Media is experiencing an internal break. So the founders have split. There were four founders of Black Power Media. One of them is going to, as far as I know, I could be wrong. This is being negotiated as we speak. But one of the founders is taking it over and going their way, and the three other founders are going to build a brand new cooperative media apparatus themselves. You see, she said it's a typo. I'm not gonna show where. You see, that's how they do. I'm gonna be like, maybe, yeah, but see, I knew it was a typo. Yeah, I mean, my spell correct gets me in a lot of trouble.
I'm
My
glad
spell,
it was a typo.
huh?
I'm glad it was a typo.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, any more questions, comments, criticisms?
All right. Any more questions for you good people?
Because we talking about poverty and struggle. People want to hear about balling. You like you said, you get
They don't
the right
care. I mean,
people.
people,
All
particularly
you gotta get.
online, black people are very, 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 very delusional online. I mean, I've never seen such delusional thought pattern. I've
Yeah,
seen people arguing over celebrities. They don't know they exist. They will fight you to death, like in a Roman Coliseum, over these people who don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't give a damn about you.
I can tell you. I listen. I get more pushback than when I talk about some random trending celebrity than I do when I talk about prophets and holy men from people's religions.
Right. It's just
Okay,
crazy to
Q,
me.
you're on with us. Thank you for tuning in. You got a question, comment, criticism, or you state your name and where you calling from,
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yes,
loud
we
and
can.
clear.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet both of y'all. I'm Quentin from Dallas, Texas.
Candy
Um,
paint.
huh?
I said candy paint.
Yeah, candy paint, candy paint. Um, I had a question. As far as um, what do you think it's going to take for, I guess, a critical mass to start gravitating more into like the anarcho um socialist frameworks, because I'm reading Jackson Redux. I'm sure they explain it a little later, but they say um, something is like contradictions are looked as a crisis until like it starts affecting the survival of that particular group. And I think there's already so much in front of us now. It's like, um, how is it not already being addressed? Do you think that's just um, maybe we are there, we just don't have the ism and schisms of it, or there's a lot in front of those frameworks that kind of block that type of um, deep involvement in it? I just want to know y'all perspectives on it.
You want to go first, Kat?
Uh, you mean basically you talking about? I'm sorry, I got kind of sidetracked. What it's going to take for people to wake up?
Yeah, yes, in a sense, yes, because I think a lot of black people kind of, I think we're aware. It's just maybe the isms and schisms maybe it's not looked into deeply. So I don't think there's maybe like the quickness to look for it. But where we have that we understand the essence of it. So I wanted to know, I guess, what would it take? And as like I said and described in the book, it said uh, from it would have to take, I guess, a crisis for it to happen. But what do y'all think is maybe blocking it or just in the way?
Well, for me, I honestly thought the pandemic would have did it. I really did. I thought it was going to be a total reset. People were going to get their minds together. But unfortunately, to me, it seems like people have become more delusional since then. So honestly, I don't know, sir.
Yeah, I don't buy into like crisis causing significant change. We've seen people endure, I mean, chattel slavery for centuries. We saw people, I mean, if you watch some of the or read some of the accounts um, in from colonial Africa to the atrocities throughout Europe, World War I and World War II, the Armenian genocide to what's going on now in Sudan. Um, I say this, I don't think people really grasp it. Revolution is an intellectual endeavor, and what provokes people to change their actions is to change their thinking. So you can enslave someone and mass incarcerate them, dump crack cocaine into their neighborhoods, brutalize and mutilate them on live television, and you might get a rebellion or a protest or a boycott. But until people start to truly lose confidence in the institutions, because you'll have a boycott, but by and large, you know, even at the height of the struggle, um, people still have confidence in institutions from the church or the mosque, the schools, and the police. We complain about the police, but we still have basic confidence. So until we transform African ideology, until the fundamental uh, pillars of the society and what binds us all together, the very concept of what a nation is, the very nature of the economy and social relations and hierarchies, until we have a change in ideology. You know, when we were being lynched prior to the civil rights movement and the Black Power struggle, the guns were always there. Black men weren't getting lynched because they didn't have guns. You look online now, you see all these black people showing their guns and got all these gun clubs, and black men are teaching classes in concealed carries and stuff. The presence of absence of guns were never the problem, you know. And so um and then you have all these various panaceas: open a business, bank black, buy black. Really, it's our fundamental ideology. We have to be anti-capitalist, pan-Africanist, socialist, ecological. So the struggle, as Bobby E. Wright said in the 80s, the struggle right now is for the African mind. It's for the African mind. And we need to radicalize our community and radicalize our culture when we understand these things and attack these things at the most basic fundamental levels, Q. So I think it's an intellectual endeavor. And changing the minds of the people is more important than the presence or lack of any resource or weapons.
Yeah, because I guess what my mind is like automatically goes to is like I guess the actual work of it, the actual like intellectual I guess findings of it is it's not a sexy thing to do, like compared to what's already out here, as um backwards as it might be, and damaging as it already is and has been for a long time. And I guess um like even when I talk to my coworkers, or I try and I don't throw the isms and schisms at them, but like I can hear the passion um, that they have, even though it still might be a little status quo. Uh, I understand like the passion is that they want something different. I guess it's more of me trying to understand how to.
What's the different thing that they want? Because often they want the same damn thing. They want integration and elevation within the system.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I
Um,
find. Do they want an end to capitalism? Do they want an end to theocracy and the theocratic power structure?
like I think it's like just like I don't want to say just normal barbershop talk, but like even like when COVID or just talking about the weather, like, oh man, it's this degree and this month is shit is crazy. And then that can lead to, well, the reason that's happening is because of this, that, and the third. And it always seems like it kind of just hits a wall sometimes. And when it gets to that point, it's kind of hard to be like, well, look into ecological deals, read this book, da da da, because it I guess the feeling is shared, but I don't think I don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing of me not pushing that extra level of like putting it in front of them. I don't know if you've ever just like ran into that problem where it's like um just a wall.
Yeah. Well, I think it's our role as we organize. We make the path by walking. As we organize and build, we also have to make sure it's done radically. Because a lot of times we think we're this is something I say every show, Del Jones. We lose so much we don't know what victory looks like. Simply being outraged,
Mm.
simply desiring change. Change can come in many forms, and most forms of change can leave you stuck or regress you further. So, true advancement, it has to be anti-capitalist. It has to be anti-imperialism. It can't be entrepreneurial or buying black capitalism. So we have to change the fundamental social relations and how we engage reality unto itself. So I appreciate you, Q. The
Yes, sir.
struggle
It's always a
continues.
pleasure.
All right, bro. Next time. Until
Yes,
next
sir.
time. KD, you're live on the BroDiallo show with BroDiallo and Kathy. State your name, where you're calling from, and question, comment, criticism.
Thank you. Name's Karan from Queens, New York. I have two questions. The first one is, what are your thoughts on anarchism, black anarchism, kind of the role of the state, and is the state necessary for evolution or bringing us towards socialism? And the second question is around taxes. What are your thoughts on tax resistance? A trillion of our U.S. budget goes to war and bombs and all that stuff. So there are people who are against that and refuse to pay taxes. And just what are your thoughts on refusing to pay taxes or resisting against taxes and around that topic?
Okay, in relationship, remember that the socialism, from a dialectic point of view, communism and socialism were the natural predecessor to anarchism. So you have one school of thought, even though I support anarchy, I embrace anarchy, and I resent how the very concept and ideology of anarchy has been corrupt, and the accomplishments and services that anarchists have served uh, to humanity. Anarchists and anarcho struggles have brought great advances to the humanities, and it has been essentially erased from history. Even in the United States, the 8-hour
Yeah.
workday and workers' compensation and the right and ability to unionize and to unionize and things of that nature are a byproduct of anarcho struggles. And I don't just mean march and protest, but the anarchists were engaged in asymmetric guerrilla warfare. So, and what people don't understand, anarchy in today's popular lexicon means chaos, out of control. When the reality is anarchy means no rulers. It means without an archy, like a monarchy means one ruler. Oligarchy means a small number of rulers. Democracy, a demos, means people, rule of the people. So archy means rule or hierarchy, structure of rule. Anarchy means no one really needs another people to dominate or control or dictate their life to them. So the principles and values of anarchy are valid and necessary. But many philosophers, socialists and revolutionists, assert that anarchy, you have to implement socialism or communism, is a stage to bring you to anarchy. And you can't simply remove the social constraints or social relationships. You can't just go from repressive, capitalist, hierarchical structure straight to anarchy. Anarchy is a state that we evolved from, and it is a state that we can evolve to, but we can't simply make that leap to it because it will cause more disruption and pain, because you need people have been brought up and indoctrinated into religious hierarchies, political hierarchies, class and racial hierarchies, and of course, economic hierarchies, even regional or national hierarchies, shithole countries, first world, third world, developing nations. Because so when you have generations of people brought up in these unjust, unnecessary, artificial structures, you can't simply say, okay, snatch it all away and people will begin to behave in an anarchist fashion. People have to be educated and trained into anarchy the same way they were miseducated or indoctrinated into the hierarchy. So I do embrace anarchy. I do support anarchy, but I'm not an anarchist because I think it is idealistic and unrealistic. There's really no historical example of an unjust hierarchical society making a transition to anarchy in a functional way. But I do think that revolution, socialism, and liberatory ecological relationships or hierarchies are a natural step towards ultimate anarchy. I hope that answers your question, Katie.
Yeah. And so what about anarcho-syndicalism, where their whole thing is to try to use essentially, I guess, trade unions to kind of create like a dual power structure to undermine the state? So what about that approach? And also, if you have anything to mention specifically on Black anarchism, thank you.
That's already failed. The unions have been incorporated. When unions were found, again, unions were organized to working class. And most unions, not all, but most unions said, well, we're going to organize around for workers' rights. But within the working class, you had racist, you had sexist, you had nationalist, you had theocrats, Catholic. Remember the Catholic workers? So I was a member of the labor union. I was enthusiastic. I used to be a little kid. It's like one day I'm going to get a job and I'm going to be in a union. And all of the problems, hierarchies, exploitation, corruption existed within the unions. And the union structure, remember, the purpose of a union was transitional. The purpose of the union was not simply to secure higher wages and job security for the workers. The purpose of the union was to be in ongoing conflict and warfare with the ownership class, with the owners of the means of production. And the ultimate goal of the union was supposed to be for labor to take over industries. So I wasn't supposed to work and get a pension. I was supposed to work, unionize, and take over and take ownership. Worker ownership, worker control of industry was the true goal. But unions sold out and got corrupted because unions, just as a lot of other so-called revolutionary movement, was not revolutionary, it was not radical, and it did not deal with its internal contradictions. Just like a lot of other liberationist movement that got integrated into the system. Now unions functions within capitalism quite comfortably. So I think it was a sound idea 100 years ago when the IWW, I think it was a very sound and viable idea. But now we've had over 100 years of that strategy that have failed miserably. So you either have to rework it or abandon it. And so, but as far as Black anarchists, again, I think that African societies were defined as hierarchical. I know we have to use Western terminology because of colonization and enslavement. They literally ripped out our tongues, literally and figuratively. So we don't have the terminology for the conditions and social relationships in Africa, but they were anarchical. This concept, but when Europeans went there, they were like, well, societies are made up of kings and rulers and peasants. And so they went to Africa and saw societies that were 1,000 years older than Europe, and they used their language and their limited comprehension to define what was happening there. So I think anarchy comes naturally. I think ancestrally, culturally, ideologically, many of our organizations are anarchical, and we often make light of it, color folks time. So I do think that Black anarchists, again, I think the contribution of Black anarchists has been ignored or downplayed, or people attribute other accomplishments of the anarchists to other groups. But I think that anarchy can be, in terms of an ideology and a strategy, is viable and necessary in many places. But overall, I think that anarchy, again, for Black people in particular, will be something we have to evolve to, not something we can simply begin to practice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Katie. Please chime in again. Quentin Spencer. So leadership and anarchism cannot exist. You can have experts, you can have leaders in anarchy. So, and if a group of anarchists come together to accomplish a goal, and someone is tasked with coordination, management, oversight, you can have all of that within an anarchist goal. So yes, you can have leaderships, you can have experts, but one thing you do not have is rulership and control. So the leader is not above the people he leads or she leads, and the leader is as accountable and obligated to the people as their workers. So leadership, and that's another myth about hierarchy. And another thing is it's voluntary cooperation. So no one's going to say, well, you have to do this, or you will starve, or you will be homeless, or you will be ostracized. So it's all through voluntary cooperation, no coercion. So yes, you can have leaders in a hierarchical relationship, organization, or society. The one false form of anarchist is you have capitalist, anarcho-capitalism. That is a contradiction. It's like humane racism. It just, those things can't go together. They're anathema. So the only thing you can have under anarchism is capitalism. Yeah, and when you see in the manosphere, there's a lot of talk of anarcho-capitalism, which is really libertarianism, trying to shed the baggage of racism, Nazism that is embedded in white nationalism, that's embedded in libertarianism. So they call themselves anarcho-capitalists. And anarcho-capitalism, which is nothing more than a rebranded libertarianism, dumb bullshit. Oh, and he asked about taxes. See, my problem is not with the collection of taxes. I'm a socialist. I have no problem with taxation. I have a problem with the taxes are distributed. I think that, especially here in Chicago, we had 2 times. Where'd you vote did you vote in the most recent primary election?
Yes, I did.
What'd you vote on the tax?
I said no.
Why?
Because it didn't make any sense. Because we wouldn't go see nothing from it. I just didn't think so.
The tax
Mhm.
was going to reduce the property exchange tax
Mhm.
for properties less than $1 million. And any real estate exchanges for
Mhm.
over $1 million was going to have an additional tax given to it, and the revenues coming from that will go down and fund housing
Mhm.
for homeless and housing insecure people.
Mhm.
And it would put a damper on real estate speculation, and which would also put a cap on the rising real estate market and cost, because it would reduce, not stop, but greatly reduce the exploding uh real estate select, because most of the high-end real estate in this city is being purchased by multinational corporations, and so is
Yeah.
the real estate. So it would
Yeah.
put a damper on the gambling and using real estate as an investment, and prioritize using real estate for housing and homes as opposed to as poker chips to
Right.
gamble with.
I can't speak for others. I can just speak for me. I'm just fed up with the whole system. Diallo. Like,
Right. So
I'm
why
tired
would you vote to perpetuate the system?
because
You
it's
had an
gonna continue
opportunity to
anyway.
vote to change the system. If you're fed up with it, why would you vote to sustain a policy that you're fed up with when you had an opportunity to vote against it?
Did I vote? I told you my brain is scrambled these days. I
What
told
about
you.
the constitutional amendment to get rid of the flat tax in Illinois?
Did I vote for that? I don't remember.
No. But yeah, I think we focus a lot on taxation. I support progressive taxation, and I think we should pay more attention to tax allocation and tax redistribution. Taxation has been used. The United States tax system, upper income tax rate that was in 96%, was used to build the white middle class. White people did not become a large middle class society through working hard, sacrificing, and saving.
No, I
White
didn't.
people, the white middle class was built on government handouts
Yes.
that black people were excluded from.
Mhm.
For every dollar of GI Bill and federally funded, federally sponsored loans and education, for every dollar that went to the white majority, less than a quarter came to the black community. White people became a generally wealth prior to the New Deal. The white majority was did not own homes. White
Mhm.
poverty rate was around what, pre-depression era poverty. There were no worker protection. There was no restrictions on child labor, and white folks had crime rates that surpassed the crime rates of the inner city ghettos, until
Yes,
white
they
folks,
did.
literally the white elites, began to shovel money at them, threw money at the problem of the white working class, because they
Right.
basically didn't want the white masses to go communist like they did in the
Right.
Soviet Union and the Soviet bloc nations. And so anyway, those government handouts. So it is absurd and obscene for black people to be, our problem is to not stop taxes. Our goal should be to the just redistribution of taxes. Or as the founding rapists and slavers said, they wanted to quell the leveling impulses of the masses. So we need to redevelop what is called our leveling impulses, meaning that even though we don't have money, we don't have the guns and the militaries, we have a big mass of bodies. And we can do everything from vote as a massive heap to go stop trains and stop highway traffic and throw a monkey wrench into the machine of capitalism to disrupt the profit, the flow of profit and wealth accumulation. So I don't have as much of an issue of taxes, but I am against regressive taxes. And regressive taxes are fines and fees that are paid by the poor, banking fees, what the lottery is a poor tax, fees on public transportation. Transportation should be free. I am for progressive tax, meaning you tax upper income. In fact, I support a maximum wage. A minimum wage will mean nothing in a fiat economy without the implementation and enforcement of a maximum wage. So that's that. Profit is theft, not taxes. Thank you. I put that on a shirt. Go to AfricanWorldOrder.com and get your Profit is Theft t-shirt today. But should normal people refuse taxes until true? Yes, I think there should be tax resistance. But I've been in this city a little over a decade, and there have been 3 election cycles where there were opportunities to implement progressive taxation that was voted down. So it's just curious to me that if I could sit on my couch and relax and just walk to the polls and vote for something and go home, I would rather do that than have to take to the streets or potential going to federal prison. So do the easy, take the path of least resistance. That's just my thing. But yes, enough respect to tax resistance, tax withholding, tax denial, tax delay until and advocate. I would not support a public figure that didn't have a stance on the progressive tax. Every local politician and a state politician that I've voted for in this city has been an advocate for progressive tax. And I've worked on campaigns of state senators and even mayoral candidates who all take a stance for progressive taxation.
Do you regret voting for Mayor Johnson?
No, not yet. Do you?
A little. He kind of irks me.
Why?
He just seems so. He took on a burden that I don't think he was ready for. He looks very confused.
I think the media paints him as confused.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think he's confused. I do think he has been compromised, but I didn't put that much. And listen, I didn't put no hope in him, so it's really
exactly.
I had my expectations of him are so low; it'd be quite hard for him to disappoint me.
I just knew I wasn't voting for Paul Vallis, who's been running for something literally down there my whole life.
Scum of the earth. He's the most incompetent. I think he's worse. I mean, he hasn't held many elective office, but he's had many appointed positions because he likes to cozy up to power. And he's one of the most incompetent public figures and politicians I've seen in my life. Even worse,
he destroyed 3 public school systems: Chicago, Philly, and New Orleans.
Down there, post Katrina. Scum of the earth. But I'm not happy with his pick for a police superintendent. But I mean, I think that Bobby E. Wright, another Chicago legend that y'all don't show no love to. Bobby E. Wright said, when all white folks are against you, you're doing something right. And I have very low, I'm not going to say, when I think about a politician, I look at the scope of their office and I only judge them. My expectations are always limited to the scope of their office. I think Black people get very upset with politicians without comprehending what they can or can't do within the scope of their office. Right. So I only criticize them within the scope of their office. Now, as far as who they are as people, it ain't nothing personal. I don't take none of them personal. I keep my feelings and my flesh out of politics. So it's like when Black people get mad about reparations and talk about they're not going to vote for this president for reparations. The president has absolutely no power over reparations. That is a congressional issue and a legislative issue. And I've never heard a Black person say, well, I'm not going to vote for this congressman or I'm going to support this congressman. They always talk about president. Biden didn't give us no reparations. Trump didn't give us no reparations. I could get elected president and I could go on the podium and say, I support reparations. But if I went into the Oval Office and tried to allocate government funds for reparations, they would lock me up or impeach me. No, well, if I'm not Trump. But as a black president, yeah, they would lock, because that's not within the scope of my office. So within the scope and limitations of his office, if I were to grade him, I give him a B minus.
Okay.
I do think that he's advocating. I just need competent administration. You don't vote for liberation. You don't vote for revolution. It's not on any ballot in any country in history. So competent bureaucrats is all I look for in governance when I vote. And I will get my liberation, my organization, and my black power from the community and from the streets and interacting with people like you on a person-to-person level. That's where revolution comes from. That's not what I go to the ballot box for. I go to the ballot box to find a competent bureaucrat with the platforms and policies that are acceptable to me at that time. Cold, distant, and calculated. And from that point of view, I was a big fan of Kim Foxx because she's a competent bureaucrat. I don't need a black leader. I ain't anybody that takes office to me becomes ineligible for black leadership because you are a government official. If I got elected tomorrow, not that I'm a black leader, but if I have black leadership status, if I get elected to public office, you're now a public servant. You're an agent of the state. You can't be a revolutionary and an agent of the state at the same time.
What do you think about Lori Lightfoot?
Scum of the earth. She was handpicked by Rahm Emanuel.
Yeah. And
she was nothing more than an extension of the Rahm Emanuel administration. I love the memes. They were very entertaining. But other than the memes, we didn't get shit from her. She's anti-black. She fucking hates black people. I mean, she like Candace Owens with a thirsty perm. I think that. So I was not a fan. I did not vote for Lori Lightfoot on our necks. But I mean, my assessment of politicians and is very different. Like I said, within the scope, as far as the mayor of this metropolis, I think he's been competent, and I think he's been pretty steadfast into advocating and advancing his policies with overwhelming hostility from white folks, the white establishment.
I'm reading the chat.
Oh.
The bourgeois democracy will be abolished, and we shall embrace our Chinese overlords in the generation to come. From Charles.
Fret not, brother. Bourgeois democracy will be abolished, and we shall. You know what's funny? Every generation has its foreign power that's going to come and take over America. You and I grew up with the Russians, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Huns, which is what they called the Germans, the Huns were coming to take over.
Right.
And remember when the Italians were the immigrants, the poor immigrants that were taken over, because remember, America was Protestant and the Italians were Catholic. And they were like, the Italians are here to invade America and they all are controlled by the Pope. And when the Italians get here and we get enough Italians, the Vatican is going to take over America.
Right, it was the same for the Irish.
Right. And remember the Japanese. Remember that movie Gung Ho?
Yeah.
With Tom Hanks, and the other movie with Wesley Snipes and who was that woman beater? That white man. He was in A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I forget.
Raising Son. Sean Connery.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah. Man, he used to be. Rising Sun. Remember, the Japanese were buying up all the land in Los Angeles, and Japanese are making better, more efficient cars, and the Japanese are going to. It's really funny. If you live in the United States, I'm going to have to say this. This ain't nothing personal to nobody. If you live within the confines of the United States of America, please shut the fuck up about any country taking over America, because the United States is a nuclear, genocidal, omnicidal empire. It is the world's sole superpower, and every other nation in the world is under siege from the United States. And I never hear any Americans talking about all these countries, Venezuela, Haiti, Congo, Sierra Leone, China, and the South China Sea. Just go look up. And it's really maddening to me. It just hurts my heart and makes me afraid for my brothers and sisters. for anybody that's living in the seat of the empire, living literally in the belly of the beast. And now you find Americans of all people on planet Earth to talk about foreign power invading them. The United States has more foreign military bases than there are countries. Name a region
everywhere
that does not have a U.S. military base on it. How many foreign military bases are in the United States? And name a continent outside of Antarctica where the United States doesn't have at least 5 military bases. But I digress. Oh, yes. And we got to wrap up. So you have any closing words or announcements?
As I'm getting older, I'm turning into such a cynic, and it makes me sad. I used to think I could save the world. We gonna get out here and fight the power. I'm like, and I hate that it's like that.
Well, it's good to hear from you. I was genuinely pleasantly surprised to hear from you.
What you know? Right? Let me talk to you.
Out of Hyde Park, yeah. You know, normally y'all over there don't deal with us folks over here.
Well, you know that's not true.
Like, wow. What's this area code? What's this?
When it's literally on a hot summer day, you can walk down the street.
Yeah, I do. When I go out for my daily walks, I like to cut through Hyde Park, the beautiful University of Chicago campus, and it's a new coffee shop over there.
Right,
so
like 51st Street.
About opening this bookstore
I'm serious.
Cafe.
I'm
bookstore / vegan cafe / plant shop.
Yes.
/ strip club.
I don't know about the strip club.
It'd be equal opportunity.
But that would be great.
Okay. I'm ambitious. Anyway, y'all come see us. We headed to Baltimore. Please make a donation. Earn your liberation. Me, Geechee, and Jared gonna make our way to Baltimore to do a live show, live meet and greet, vegan food to fill your gullet. So please, we're on Eventbrite. You can go to what's that? GoFundMe to help us fund this endeavor, pay for transportation, and we also need some tech. We need some mics and stuff we need to buy. So we also set up a GoFundMe so you can fund us. So, keep your ear out. Please go and share this event and donate, make a positive contribution if you can. And also support the BroDiallo show unto itself. Support.
When somebody say I look mean like a mean elementary school principal.
It's them fancy glasses. I tell you, the fancier the glasses, the meaner the woman. Y'all get them fancy glasses to try to disarm people before y'all cuss them out. I know the truth.
How some cat eye glasses mean?
It's a sneak attack.
That was just too funny.
Anyway, it was good to hear from you. I'm glad you came through to chop it up with me, and anytime.
We got to do something else because I got another idea for you that you should run. I know
you got to get the bookstore cafe open.
Yeah, the bookstore. I'm talking about another idea for another chat like this. What do you think about the soft life provider stuff that's going on?
We didn't even get to that. I'm sorry.
No, we got to do that the next time.
Listen, this show is anarchist. You can see the topics, and then it just goes off. But yes, soft life. You have to holler at that. And I don't want to get in trouble with all my Nigerian brothers and sisters, but they don't play about it. But anyway, it was a pleasure having you. BroDiallo show. Be on Friday with Earn Your Liberation, and we're gonna get Kathy back to talk about soft life. Just DM me. Slide into my DM.
Will.
Yeah.
You take care.
Do it before 6. My wife be looking over my shoulder at my phone in the evening. So. You're going to slide in. You already know. I already gave you the rules.
Right. Okay. Bye.
All right, sis. Next time. Anyway, BroDiallo broadcast. I'll see y'all next week with the BroDiallo show. Appreciate y'all. And go support the Earn Your Liberation. We're going to take it on the road. And if this Baltimore trip is successful, then we're going to be coming to a city near you. We're going to be all over. Spreading liberation.